which is called factoring by grouping. Okay. Our learning target is that we want to be able to factor higher degree polynomials by grouping. And so our, a vocab term that we haven't looked at yet would be factoring by grouping. Okay, so think about kind of what we know how to factor so far. Just if I gave you something, and I don't know that I'd write this down, but just kind of think along with me. But if I gave you something like 1x squared plus, I don't know, 4x plus 3, hopefully, you would be able to factor that because you'd think what multiplies to 3 and what adds to 4. So you could come up with x plus 3 times x plus 1, right? So that's one kind of factoring we did. And we really use that a lot. That's a fundamental skill, part of our review yesterday. We also learned some shortcut problems. So if we see something like, I don't know, 9x squared minus 36, you might say, okay, that's a difference of 2 squares. So I know it's a plus b times a minus b. So by using the shortcut, I could come up with 3x plus 6 times 3x minus 6. All right, those are the types of things we've factored so far. So just kind of physically speaking, what do we notice? What stands out when we look at like A, B, and C that's kind of different about those? Yes? That's right. We have 4 terms, right? That's one big physical difference. Another one is like usually the things that we factor are to the second power or their second degree. These are third degree, could even be higher. Okay. So this is just a way to factor, higher degree terms. And really the most important takeaway from this lesson is how it ties into 8-6. All right. So we're kind of, you wouldn't necessarily see a lot of these specific types of problems on the test, but there is a skill you need to learn. So this is kind of a procedural kind of lesson. All right. So just stay with me and watch how I do A, and then I'll have you guys help me a little bit more on B. All right, you wouldn't know how to do it yet. You shouldn't know how to do it yet. All right, so basically what you do, it's called factoring by grouping, right? So you kind of think of these as groups of 2, right? So in your mind, you group these 2 together, and then you group those 2 together. All right, so what can I do then? I can treat each group like a DMR problem. In other words, I can factor out a GCF, right? So what's the GCF of 3n cubed and minus 12n squared? All right, hopefully your brain thought or is thinking, at least getting towards 3n squared. Okay, these are a little bit easier to factor, okay, if you understand how to GCF factor. All right, then what's left in the parentheses after I take that out? If I divide this by the GCF, I get n to the first. If I divide this by the GCF, I get minus 4. So just n minus 4. All right, and then the other 2, same thing, right? What's the common factor for 2n and negative 8? It's 2, right? Anybody tell me whether it's positive or negative 2, since one's positive and one's negative? Vocamp? Positive, right? You would take the sign of the higher degree term. So we write plus 2 times whatever's left after we divide both by 2. So that would be n and minus 4. So what we notice there is that repeated factor of n minus 4. Okay, that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, you've done something wrong or it can't be factored. Okay, so you should always see it. That's a good way to check your answer, right off the top. Now here's how we tie it together or finalize our answer. Okay, if you think back to the distributive property or if you look back at our 8.3 notes, you would see that what we have here is equivalent to 3n squared plus 2 times n minus 4. Okay, if you think about showing the distributive property, like if I gave you our answer as a problem and told you to multiply it out, this might be how you would show your work. Okay, and then we would multiply it out and get this. So really we're just working backwards to divide. Okay, we're dividing it out into two factors. All right, so like I said, that's new, but we've done a lot of the skills. Okay, so now I'm going to start to call on you guys for a little bit of help. I'll guide you a little bit, but you all are going to help me through the process. All right, so group 2 and 2 together. So looking at my first two terms, who can tell me what the GCF is of 8t cubed plus 14t squared? Grant? 2 is part of it. What's the rest? What's the rest? All right, keep thinking, keep thinking. I might call on you even if your hand's not up. Lily? 2t to the 6th. That's right. So we look at our, yeah. So yeah, 2t squared. All right, and what's left after I divide both by that is going to be, we'll think about it for a second. Taylor Batman, can you tell me what's left after I factor out a 2t squared? All right, Toomey, can you tell me what's left after I factor out a 2t squared? Robert, go ahead. 4t plus 7 is correct. Very good. Nicely done. All right, then we look at the next two. Okay, what comes out of 20t and 35 plus 35? So let's just go volunteers. I don't have time to call on people and listen to dead air. Toomey? That's all right, though. Yeah. Plus 5 comes out. And what is left after I divide both by 5? Go ahead. 4t plus 7. All right, so we've kind of checked our answer. We know what we have is right because we see 4t plus 7 written down twice. And how we finalize our answer then is just the 4t plus 7 stays together, but we only write it once, right? And then that's multiplied by the sum of the other two. So 2t squared plus 5. And that's how you do that, okay? So take what we just learned and try to do as much as you can on C. And actually, you know, give it your best effort. Four t plus 7. Sorry. Yeah, 4t plus 7 times 2t squared plus 5. Mm-hmm. So if anybody just has a hankering to catch a touchdown, that's what we're playing for here. If you get the right answer, you get to catch a touchdown. You know you want to. Don't act like you don't. You can try to gronk one-handed or whatever if you want. Still got 40 seconds. You can compare with people around you. We're gonna play it like Jeopardy too. After the buzzer, I'm gonna see the first hand after the buzzer. So get ready, quick. See, all my boys are ready. The girls are like, "Hey, I don't want that ball thrown at me." I think you were a little ahead of the buzzer. You were a little ahead of the buzzer. I'm gonna go with Beaucamp first. I think you did it. I think you did a different problem. I think you skipped down to 2A. Did you make it? That's all right. Joke. That's all right. That's all right. We'll get there. What'd you get?
I got 4n squared times 1n plus 3.
Give me like the final answer though.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Like fill in 2 sets of parentheses.
Okay. And okay. 4n squared times 1n plus 3.
No. Does anybody have anything different? Final answer. What I would box in.
I didn't get the final answer.
Nobody even wants to catch a touchdown? Oh my goodness. I guess I'll work it out. You guys are really no. All right. So what you take out of the first two is a 4n squared. You're left with an n plus 3. And then I guess maybe this might have been what confused you, right? When you look at these last two, it's a little bit confusing. So what goes into negative 1n and negative 3? Basically nothing, right? So if they don't really have a common factor, what goes into everything? What goes into any number? 1, right? So you got to think 1 in that case. So I guess that's fair that you didn't know how to do this. So would it be positive 1 or negative 1 though? And if I'm looking at these two factors, negative 1. So we go minus 1 and then times n plus 3. All right. So then based on that, I know my answer would be 4n squared minus 1 times n plus 3. So we're not quite there yet, but hopefully you feel like you're getting there. Okay.
I'll take plus 3 for the last one. What is the n last?
No, because I factored out a negative 1. So if you divide negative n by negative 1, you get positive n. If you divide negative 3 by negative 1, you get positive 3. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right? But yeah, if we do get like n plus 3 here and then n minus 3 here, we did it wrong. It doesn't work. Okay? So that's probably where you know, oh, I should have taken out a negative. All right? Okay. So let's go ahead and move on. We need to make sure we work all the examples we need to work. All right, so looking at A, so A through C on these are all very similar, but they have one extra step, okay? So the extra step is, and we'll get used to this, we haven't really seen this yet, but anytime you're factoring, you have to look for a GCF like first, okay? So it's like, you know, it's like these two have a GCF and these two have a GCF, but all 4 of them together also have a GCF, right? So does anybody see what it is? What is the term that goes into all 4 terms? What's the biggest term that divides into all 4 terms? Braden? So 4q squared goes into all of them except this one. So it doesn't go into the last one. So Grant, what would it have to be? What is it? 4q. All right. So we want to start by factoring out a 4q. And then we're kind of left with whatever we're left with. Divide them all by 4q. I'm going to do that without talking. You might want to try it on your own and then check. If you're not there yet, then just copy off the board. So they're up there. I'll give you a few more seconds if you're working on your own. but make sure you have it before we go on. Any questions on that step? All right, so basically from that point, I know that 4Q is a factor of my answer, but basically I just ignore it until the end. So I'm just going to kind of drop it down as part of my final answer, which is going to be 4Q times some binomial times some other binomial. That's how my answer is going to be when I have a GCF, okay? All right, so then we're just focusing on what's in parentheses. Then we factor that by grouping. So now basically what's in there is just like an example 1 problem, okay? So I'll work that one pretty quickly and then call on you guys for a little bit of help on B. All right, so what comes out of the first two is going to be a Q to the second, a Q squared. And what would be left would be Q minus 2. Then what comes out of the next two would be would it be positive 3 or negative 3? Positive, so plus 3. And then hopefully we're left with Q minus 2. And we are. So we know that's good news. So based on what I have written here, could anybody fill in the 2 parentheses for me? That should eventually be the easy step once you get it. Sumi, take a shot at it. What goes in the 2 sets of parentheses? Yes. Very good. And that would be my final answer right there. 4Q times Q minus 2 times Q squared plus 3. Yes. If you did what with the parentheses? No, yeah. So Andrea asked a pretty common question there. So she basically said, what if my answer said 4Q times Q squared plus 3 times Q minus 2? That's exactly right. Okay, so just like it doesn't matter whether I take 2 times 3 or 3 times 2, it doesn't matter the order on these factors either, even though they look different. All right. So moving on to the next one. We know we're going to have a GCF out front. Looking at all 4 terms, what's my common thread for all 4 of them? Robert? 3H, very good. All right. Anybody tell me what goes in the parentheses then? What are the 4 terms in the parentheses? Go ahead. You're not dividing by the 3. You're doing the exponents right, but you're forgetting to divide by the 3.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
Sorry, I know.
Okay.
2H3
Yeah.
plus 3H squared plus 4H plus 6H.
That's it. Well, how would we fix the last one?
Oh, sorry.
It's not going to be plus 6H. What would it be?
Plus 6.
Plus 6. All right. So then we kind of forget about the 3H. Until the end. And I'm going to give you a couple seconds to get ahead of me here and try to factor what's in the parentheses by grouping. So you're looking at the first 2, then looking at the last 2 to try to fill in what goes in our parentheses. All right, so I am going to go ahead and just write up how it factors. I appreciate you all wanting to answer, but just check your work off mine, or if you were waiting, copy what I put, okay? So first, we want a pen, not a highlighter. That's not going to work. So let's try that with a pen. So first, we want to take an h squared out of the first 2, and that would leave me with 2h plus 3. Next, we want to take out a plus 2 out of the next two, and that would also leave me with, 2h plus 3. So based on that, my final answer is going to be 3h times h squared plus 2 times 2h plus 3. All right, so here's what I want us to do, and then we'll kind of take a break. I don't think this will happen on MathXL, but I wanted to get this in the video. I thought we'd be done a little sooner, but that's okay. Going back up to example 1C, like I said, I don't think this will happen on your MathXL problems, but this is something that you need to look out for. Can anybody tell me how you could factor out even more? Like, how could you factor out that first factor? Anybody see what it is? If it's a quadratic and it's two terms, what's that called? And it's a perfect square minus a perfect square. Anybody remember? A difference of, you guys are just you're not quite with me today. All right, it's called a difference of squares. So that is your a plus b times a minus b. So actually, this might be one that MathXL says, hey, your answer is right, but it's not all the way factored. So to finish that one out, we'd have 2n plus 1 times 2n minus 1 times n plus 3. So like I said, I wanted to get that in the video first. So write that out, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to finish by doing that last example. So get up and move around for a minute. You guys need a break. I need a break. Let's take a break. 2n minus 1, 2n plus 1, n plus 3.